Good afternoon, Black women. I know it's been a little while since I've been live. Uh, but I decided to come on today to give people an opportunity to hit the link if they wanted to partake in the live today. But today I'm going to be talking about things that I believe are very serious and things that Black women need to wake up and stop playing around with, because literally our lives are going to be on the line with it. And I don't mean like life or death, somebody's going to kill you, but I mean the ability to live your life with ease and affordability is actually being challenged. Your governmental freedoms and rights given to you by this government are in plans to be taken away from you if Donald Trump becomes president in 2024 going into 25. And I intend to just basically give you the information because I know that, unfortunately, and I'm not insulting the intelligence of the Black women who get it. I am speaking to the Black women who don't get it. I'm speaking to the ones where if a light skinned Black woman is not talking, somebody they perceive to be pretty, intelligent, or has a huge fan base, they tend to think that anyone else speaking has no credibility and no worth in total. And it's becoming to be an issue in the Black community as far as Black women are concerned, where there are going to be many Black women who are going to die, lose their lives, and be really fucked up in America because they refuse to rethink the way that they see things in life and to obtain new knowledge, to have a different viewpoint, and to do things differently in life. You're not going to be able to win or survive if you keep the same thought pattern moving ahead and you refuse to take in new information and discard a lot of the old that you already have that makes you who you are. I want to begin by reading something to you out of this book, Dark Psychology and Manipulation by William Cooper. I speak about this book constantly because it is something that everybody should have by their bed, their nightstand, wherever, as a Black woman, and read it and know it backwards and forwards, because you are constantly under the influence of psychological manipulation daily, because you have shown to the world that you are easily manipulated by social media and celebrity. That is a problem. That is a big problem for Black women. Most recently, I'm going to pull the clips and show you as well, right? Today is all seriousness, right? This is a warning informational video, me to Black women. Those that get it will get it. Those that don't, they're just going to be, I guess, hanging on by a wing and a prayer. You're welcome, Earthly Twin, and welcome. So here's the thing, right? You know how there's this new channel out that is streaming a little bit of Cynthia G's videos onto YouTube? Well, I noticed today that the same woman is now starting to do that with Princella as well. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole thing of why you should not be listening to either one of those women when it comes to how you should be living your life as an adult woman with independent thought and the ability to do what's right for yourself and not to be guided by two particular women who have issues with Black males for personal reasons. I'm going to go over it briefly and not come back over it because I know how some of you are so heavily taken by the both of them. Cynthia G has a history on this channel that is not very nice when it comes to Black women. In addition to that, she was shown to have lied about her personal situation with another male YouTuber who she shares a child in common with. Over the years that she's been here, she has changed her message a million times. And there's no, people could change whatever you want to say, make any excuse for them that you want. But when you see the same fundamental basis of an issue with people, you need to know how to identify it. Both of these women are giving their message out of two main points. One is monetary goal. The second is revenge for whatever personal issue happened to them by black males. So with Cynthia, we know her plight. We know that there's an issue with baby daddy not wanting to be with her and her having a problem with biracial women because of her upbringing in Seattle and all the rest of that stuff that we don't need to get into. When it comes to Princella, this is another woman here to con women out of money the same way Cynthia was doing. Only interested in the end goal that she can get, which is to convince black women that she's needed when she's not, and to keep you stuck in this type of limerance type of mode mentality. And I'm going to show you about limerance as well, where you are constantly living in this romantic type of mode in your brain where you're giving way too much time and concern and thought about black males and not enough about yourself and what you need to be doing for the serious future that's coming, that's going to put you on your ass if you're not prepared. Okay, so when I play these couple of videos, I want you to keep in mind, I'm going to go over some of the quotes and I'm going to explain that to you after I read this passage from the book and show you a few things from real psychology, right? And I want you to keep in mind that this is not an attack, because I know how some of you really think so small and don't think bigger for the bigger picture and put in all the extended factors that you need to get the real message. I also understand that I have a lot of haters out there. I have people who despise me because I'm not young, I'm not light-skinned, and I'm not worshiping black males or telling you that you need to be in a relationship to live a happy life. I'm telling you the opposite. I'm telling you that if you want to live a safe, happy life and have children in your home be safe, the last thing you need to do is to be involved with a black male. The last thing you need to do is be married to them, have children by them, or date them. That is the last thing you need to do. But the first thing you need to do is to educate yourself and stay educated on world events, political issues, and how things are affecting you in your own country. Now, I do understand right now everybody's worried about what's going on over there in a part of Africa that we should not be concerned with, because we can't do anything about it. Now, mind you, if you want to have rallies in New York and wherever you live, more power to you. But don't get so focused on one thing, you neglect everything else that's happening you need to be rallying for as well. You could have 2 or 3 things totally right and going on that you can be involved in at the same time. So in essence, what I'm saying is, if you're going to rally for one thing, don't forget about rallying at the same time for equal pay for black women, better housing, childcare, and the fight against black femicide and everything else you need domestically to get your life on track. We tend to fight too many times, too often, for other people that do not care about our well-being or even our existence, and who go out of their way to fight to see that we are no longer here. So in saying that, I'm going to put all that aside now. I'm going to read from this book. But before I do that, I'm going to finish up the last part I was saying about the 2 different women. So now with Priscilla, I saw her come on. Well, she's been here for a while, but I saw her pick up pace after she left the friendships of black males in the manosphere on YouTube who are very detrimental to black women. As a matter of fact, Nyla actually did a video exposing a lot of her affiliations with people that she probably should have never been friends with, but she was. And it speaks to the real character of the person. And you cannot chalk things up always to the extent of, well, they were young and they didn't know any better. Once a greedy, manipulative person who is really very deceptive and untruthful is who they are, is going to be who they are unless there's some significant change in life. And I doubt that that's going to happen. So I want you to understand that what I'm telling you, once again, I'm going to reiterate it again, is for your benefit and not for you to sit around thinking that I'm hating on women who are only coming on YouTube for you to buy books, buy courses, buy personal instruction that you don't need from a dysfunctional woman themselves. You don't need that. All you need is to educate yourself and get yourself ready in this society to make the money you need to survive. I think that as Black women on YouTube, you are wasting your time worrying about relationships and all male talk. You are wasting your time with that, which is why I have spent the beginning of this year putting out video after video, trying to display and show you the harm that comes from listening to people who are pushing you towards relationships with Black males or males in general, and also the women who are keeping the male conversation relevant and ongoing. So let's begin. And when I read this, keep in mind, this is in particular to Princella. This is in the book, once again, of Dark Psychology and Manipulation. Hold up. By William Cooper. This is what she tends to do on her platform on a regular basis, and you guys are not willing to accept it. This is called The Big Lie versus the White Lie. And I'm going to read what they have on this page and leave it at that, and then I'm going to go to psychology so you can understand it much further. So the big lie versus the white lie. You may have encountered people telling you lies in their everyday life. Some of these people are categorized as big lies and white lies. I'm going to read that again because I messed up. You may have encountered people telling lies in their everyday life. Some of these are categorized as big lies and white lies. In the two forms of lies, and this is what she's doing on that channel, a person intentionally deceives the other person or groups of persons by communicating misleading information and partial information. There is a big difference between the big lie and the white lie. The big lie, the deceptive person tries to gain something from the deceived person. Ergo, my course, my book, my personal instruction. This means that the dishonest individual seeks to exploit the other party out of self-interest. We have seen that time and time again with the amount of times that this person has gone to panels and feels it necessary to exert herself or interject herself into places where women should just omit completely from their lives, never be a part of, and red flag them off of YouTube, period. Telling a lie to gain personal benefit is condemned across all cultures of the world. This is what they say in the book. We know that that is a part of all cultures in the world. For example, now they're going to go into the salesman, which I'm not going to do. But what I want you to understand is that white lies involve manipulating information in order to motivate or please the deceived. Now, you need to, I'm going to read that again because that is what all this shit is about. White lies involve manipulation and manipulating information in order to motivate or please the deceived. Sometimes situations may compel you to mislead others. You may be forced to say what the other person is expecting to hear, even when the situation is different. And this is what is happening. And this is why you guys are so locked into hanging on to every word she says as if she's a messiah, when you're refusing to see that she's just another charlatan that's looking to keep you confused off of your lack of emotional intelligence where Black males are concerned, and your inability to let go of every connection you want to have towards them. Now, in saying that, right, I want to show you now the clip, right? And I'm going to let it play for a little while because I want you guys to understand what is happening.
Notice us, but it can be harmful in the long run. Number 3, persuasion and authority. Persuasion involves using convincing arguments or appeals in order to change someone's opinion or behavior. Politicians tend to use persuasive arguments to convince people to vote for them. Big brands often use celebrity endorsements as a form of persuasion as well. By partnering with a well-known celebrity, a company can create a sense of trust and credibility in their product. The celebrity's public image also creates a sense of desirability and exclusivity, making people more likely to purchase the product. Authority, on the other hand, involves using a position of power or influence to manipulate someone into doing something. For example, a manager may use their authority to make an employee do something they don't want to do. They might even threaten to fire the employee if they do not comply. Number 4, emotional manipulation. Emotional manipulation refers to the use of deception and the exploitation of emotions as a way to get someone to do something they wouldn't normally do. The strategy is to make the person feel guilty, sad, ashamed, or afraid in order to get them to comply. For example, the manipulator plays the victim to get sympathy and gain favor, or they may scare and manipulate others into a desired action or belief by exaggerating, distorting, or fabricating facts. They might even use emotional blackmail. Another form of emotional manipulation is making someone feel like they're obligated to do something. It's not too hard to fall victim to this type of manipulation because it can be subtle. But once you know what signs to look for, it will be easier to avoid falling for it. Number 5, choice restrictions. Choice restriction is a tactic in which someone limits another's choices in order to manipulate them into doing what they want. The idea behind this tactic is that if someone has fewer options, it's easier to convince them to pick one. For example, a salesperson may only offer 2 options for a car that meets your budget and requirements. This way, it's easier for them to help you decide, as opposed to overwhelming you with, say, 6 options to choose from. In other situations, this manipulation tactic can be more dangerous, like withholding information or resources to limit someone's decision-making ability, or even setting up a situation where someone has to choose between 2 equally unappealing options. It's important to recognize this tactic because it can be used in many different situations and by people who don't necessarily come across as manipulative. Number 6, gaslighting. Gaslighting is a manipulation tactic in which someone makes you question your sanity or reality. It is often used to make you doubt your own thoughts, feelings, or memories in order to make you more susceptible to the manipulator's desires. It can happen in many different scenarios. For example, it might be used by an abusive spouse who tries to convince their partner that their thoughts and feelings aren't valid. It can also happen within an organization, when a boss's actions make employees question whether they are being treated fairly. Gaslighting can be overt or subtle. It depends on the manipulator's style and the victim's ability to recognize what's happening. Dark psychology is a powerful tool that can give someone control over you if you're not careful. By knowing what kind of tactics to look out for, you can better understand your own feelings and behavior and make decisions that are right for you. And while it's important to be aware of these techniques, it's also important not to get caught in the trap of always thinking that someone's trying to manipulate you. I hope that this video has given you a better understanding of these frequently used manipulation tactics so that you can recognize them in action and resist their negative influence. What do you think? Have you?
Okay. So, hey, Love Wisdom, what's up? I really liked your New Year's video. It was really sweet. A very, what's the word I'm looking for? Sentimental. It was nice. It was nice to reflect on the people who passed plus the people who were present. That was a nice touch. I played that for a couple of people, as they reflected on people who were no longer here this year. It was very nice. That was very nice. Thank you. All right, guys. So I wanted to show you what I'm talking about because I know you're going to rate me off as a hater, but I'm actually trying to be helpful, right? Because what I've noticed in all of those videos that are done, it is always partial information that's given to you to do what everybody does, which is to stress the point and to keep up with the narrative that they're making. Even though the majority of the time there's so much more to those quotes or to that back information that she never gives out. And then it is a manipulation tactic to keep women hooked into the romance and this sort of limerance of the Prince Charming narrative, the fairy tales we've always been taught, to keep you hooked into worrying about nonsense instead of worrying about things that are happening. I'm also going to go over today how it's important for you to be worrying about the 24-25 election, because if Trump and his friends have it their way, they're going to ban abortion nationally. They're going to roll back many rights that women have died and fought for, the main one being the no-fault divorce. Currently in America, you don't need a reason to really divorce your husband. You can say, hey, guess what? We just have irreconcilable differences, or I don't want to be there anymore. And that's good enough. But if Trump gets in and he wins and he does, him and the rest of the people that are working with him, so it's not just him, it's the people he also appoints. And we know true to life that that is important, because some of those same people he appointed when he was in office the first time are the ones very much behind and spearheading the fact that we lost Roe versus Wade and the fact that we lost affirmative action. So it's not a joke. It is a reality. It's not me trying to sway your vote. I'm swaying your information. You need to know these things so that you know that when you hear these people at any time talking about taking away women's rights and making it difficult for women to live in this country, those are people that should never find their way into any public office, because they are detrimental to all women, but most importantly, Black women, because you are the poorest literally in this country, especially when you have all these programs designed these days by all administrations to help and promote the immigrant to be living a better life than you in America. And it's a lot going on, but it's a lot to take in and a lot for you to sit down, think about, digest, and actually understand that if you're not out here protecting yourself, you're going to be unprotected in a way where you will not be able to live in any of these years coming forward. You just won't. And therefore, it's more important that we stop all of this bickering with Black women and the ageism between younger women and older women, creating unnecessary rifts between mothers, daughters, and grandmothers and older Black women with the no contact and the toxicity of older women because people are telling you things you don't want to hear. Okay? You need those women because you need to be buffered or cushioned so that you go from one transition in life successfully and supported into another. And not every Black woman, and please stop creating that narrative out here, was raised by a Black woman who has all this insidiousness and hatred for their daughters and other Black women, because that is just not true. Okay? It's just not. So I want to start with the issue that I saw with again, that new channel that is putting the excerpts of Cynthia and now starting to incorporate Princella. What I want to point out is how this whole manipulation tactic of keeping women, Black women, preoccupied with relationships and the status of Black males instead of what is happening to Black women, where people are completely, every creator on here is completely avoiding Black femicide, domestic violence, child homicide, sexual assaults, and everything that happens to Black women and children who live in households with Black males on a daily basis, except for a few. Like I happen to be listening to uh, RWS hashtag exposed. She has a new name now, Matrix something. And she's the only person that's on here outside of myself that I see who's actually constantly and unbiased and unbossed, who is constantly putting the Black femicide in your face, constantly talking about the domestic violence rates, the child homicide, the sexual assault, because this is the reality you live in. The fantasy that you choose to indulge in on YouTube is only going to keep you longer living in those real dangerous and chaotic situations you're finding yourself in, because you keep getting into relationships and situations with Black males who profess to you every day on YouTube how much they hate you, want to hurt you, have done so, and will continue to do so. We have to acknowledge these things so we can move on and prepare for all of the things that these conservative races have planned for us in the future years to come. It's really not a joke, y'all. It's really not. And I think it's about time you start taking shit seriously, start realizing that, we should not be having all these intense conversations about Sexy Red and all of these other ridiculous entertainers and stuff like that, because these people we know are here as a distraction, put here as a distraction to knock you off your game, and they keep you looking at another issue that is not as important as the one that's going to keep you from being able to pay your rent, get a job that where what you're earning is going to be able to cover all the expenses in your life, where you don't have to be in a position to try to have a man help you go 50-50 or help you in any way. These are the things you got to start looking at, understanding, and dismissing it right away. Like all the nonsense that was going on YouTube with Cat Williams, Diddy, and etc. Who gives a fuck? None of that shit is important to the point where it affects us. None of us should be that taken by celebrities or anybody that we don't have any real contact with in our lives every day. Who cares what they do? They're only relevant when you buy into what they're talking about and you patronize them and you give them money for whatever it is they're entertaining you with. When you don't, they go away and they are as irrelevant or unimportant as they were before they got there. You have to start thinking about things in that way, because it's just becoming too stupid and just, like the dummying down of Black women to the point where there's nothing serious going on this damn YouTube environment. It isn't, or sector. It's just insane. Okay. I want to just say this, right? It's important, young Black women, right, for you to understand that when you have moms, older women in your life who are telling you not to do certain things, that you listen. Now, I know you would like to believe that older women are so dumb that we're the ones being taken out by Black femicide, and we're the ones living these horrible ass lives where we got these, as you guys put it, nignogs always in our lives and dictating what we do in life and in our households, when nothing could be further from the truth. The ones who have these idiots in their homes and who are having their lives snuffed out are 15 to 40 years old. So that rules me out. And it rules out many other Black women who are still alive and very much active and well aware of what they decide to do with themselves today, next year, and the year after that. And you guys are not even being given a chance to make it to the age of 40 or 35. And you need to start understanding that all that secrecy that you put into practice when it concerns your mom and other relatives that are concerned with you needs to stop, because this is how these dudes are isolating and killing you. Who was trying to get away from her boyfriend from a high school situation now, because this is showing you how how young a lot of this stuff starts and how sick these dudes are, because they come online and they're being socialized by the internet, and they're parroting and picking up all these talking points by all these black guys on here, the Peef Network, all these dudes that speak horribly about black women just because YouTube allows them to. But the consequence is that they are snuffing out and taking the lives of many black women who haven't even yet begun to live their life. And a lot of that can be avoided if you listen to women who are in your family who are telling you the dangers of life and trying to explain to you that if someone is not good for you, just literally stay away from them. You are not missing anything in life by not being in a relationship as soon as you think you're supposed to be in one, not indulging in sex because you shouldn't be. All of these things that you think you're missing and someone's trying to kill your joy is all in your head. It's in your head. But what it is truly a way of trying to protect you from all of the really messed up things in life that are out there waiting to snatch you up and to totally annihilate you with. I mean, just yesterday, I put up the video where the results of a 21-year investigation into all the crimes committed against Black women in Chicago was outlined and specified and categorized. And still, Black women are going out of their way to feel like they need to have one of these black males in their home. They need to extend father rights and opportunities and options to them that they do not respect, nor do they want. And it just doesn't seem to click that the longer you keep worrying about them and including them in your life, the more you're going to die and suffer. I don't understand how you don't get that. But I want you to hear what happened to this girl.
Trusted and relied on. Roshana and Tarad met in 2020 when they were both students at Hempstead High School. They started dating and seemed to be happy together. They shared photos and videos of themselves on social media, showing their affection and fun moments. But their relationship was not as perfect as it appeared. According to Roshana's family and friends, Tarad was controlling. He would constantly call and text her, demanding to know where she was and who she was with. Roshana tried to break up with Tarad several times, but he would not let her go. He would beg and plead for her to stay, and promise to change and treat her better. He would also manipulate her with apologies, and make her feel guilty and sorry for him. Roshana was trapped in a cycle of abuse that she couldn't escape. She was afraid of what Tarad would do to her if she left him for good. She was afraid of what he would do to her family and friends if she exposed him. On July 25, 2021, Roshana made a fatal mistake. She agreed to meet with Tarad at his apartment in the 1500 block of Copperfield Parkway in College Station, hoping to end their relationship once and for all. She did not tell anyone where she was going and did not answer any calls or texts from her family and friends. Her family became worried about her when they did not hear from her, and that is when they reported her missing to police. The police then started an investigation. They identified Tarad as the suspect and issued a warrant for his arrest.
Good evening, Brazos Valley. I'm Jacob Reyes with KAGS News. I'm over here at Crescent Point Apartments on the 1500 block of Copperfield Parkway in College Station. College Station police have confirmed one dead at this apartment behind me, apartment 4. They also want to say that there is no immediate danger to the public, and they are not looking for any suspects at this time. We do not know how the person died, but once we get more information, we will bring that to you at kxtv.com. And
they also contacted the Texas Rangers to assist in the investigation. They searched for Tarad for 2 days. That is when Tarad's mother called the police and told them that her son had confessed to killing Roshana and that he was suicidal. She said that he had called her and told her what he had done. She said that he sounded remorseful and depressed. She said that she was worried about him and that she wanted him to turn himself in. The police went to Tarad's apartment and found Roshana's body in the closet. They also found a gun and a bullet casing that matched the wound on Roshana's head. They also found a liquid soap and blood stains outside the door. They also found a note that Tarad had written, confessing to the murder and apologizing for his actions. The police also went to the family member's home where Tarad was staying. They arrested him and took him to the police station. According to Tarad, Roshana arrived at his apartment around 6 p.m. and went inside his car. They started to argue and fight over his AR-15 rifle, which he had in the back seat. Tarad said that he had bought the gun for protection, but Roshana said that he didn't need it and that it was dangerous. She tried to take the gun away from him, but he resisted and pulled the trigger. A single shot was fired, hitting Roshana in the head and killing her instantly. Tarad said that the shot was fired while they were driving through Prairie View, a town about 40 miles away from College Station. He said that he panicked and drove home instead of seeking medical attention.
Okay, so I wanted to try to use that shock value to hit young women, right? When you listen to these stories, do not become so desensitized that you don't give a shit about what the people are saying, but actually listen clearly for all the context clues. This dude shot the young woman in the head in the car, then went on to drive 40. Did you not hear me? 40 miles, they said, back to wherever they lived. He didn't try to seek medical attention or any of that. So when you listen to the other part of the story where, you know, she was missing, she wasn't answering any of her family's calls and stuff like that because they were trying to find out where she was, what was going on with her. That's some of the things that I'm trying to tell you can be avoided. And that if you stop all of this ageism and listening to a lot of these new channels where they're trying to tell young girls that, you know, your mother is toxic and you need to get away from her and no contact is best and they don't want anything in life and they want you to have nothing in life. And if you really believe that, you're the biggest goddamn fool that ever lived, because even if a person is harmful to you or even nasty to you, no one is that cold, or I should think. And if you say I'm wrong, you're going to have to prove it to me, right? To the point where they carry you, take care of you, provide for you, and then don't give a fuck if somebody blows your brains out. And the fact that this girl's family was trying to get her to get away from this dude, and this young girl was doing everything in her power to disrespect and dismiss her family to be with this guy who is beating her ass all the way up to the point of taking her life, is the shit I'm talking about. With how when you're on here listening to all of these people constantly talking to you about why you should do whatever it is about men, right? Whether it's the Princella bullshit, whatever Cynthia G is talking about, it's too much. It is all part of limerance. And instead of them explaining to you what you need to do to better yourself and get yourself on track, you're still focusing way too much on him. And that's the point of what I'm trying to say here. So much so that another creator put up a video today. I'm going to show it to you. You guys know who she is. It's Pretty Black Magic. She put up a video about a young woman who was a domestic violence survivor advocate. Do you know this woman got killed too? Now, my question when you hear the story is quite a few things, but the first question I have is, if you are a domestic violence survivor and you're advocating for other women, why are you back into relationships with the same people who were abusing and mistreating you? Do you understand how deep some of the mental dysfunction goes and the mental manipulation? Why I keep talking to you guys about dark psychology? You have got to understand that, like the South Korean women, you're going to have to separate yourself from black males altogether. Meaning, stop worrying about them. Worry about yourself and yourself only. You got 2024 and 2025 coming, where white people in this country are trying to make it hard for you to live, hard for you to have a place to live, hard for you to ever garner any generational wealth. They're making it so where they're creating titles to separate and divide the black people, the black families. They're campaigning and extra promoting division among our community, however you feel about it, with the LGBT, the ageism of creating titles for generational groups of people so that there are infighting and that there is no bonding and passing on of the torch or paying it forward to the next group of people because you're so caught up in identifying yourself as dumb shit like millennial or Gen Z or whatever the fuck it is they've come up with to keep you fractioned off from each other, where you are no longer going to be the granddaughter that may inherit grandma's house. So now you have a solid piece of collateral for your life and whatever children you may or may not bring into the future. You got to understand, all this shit is planned. All this stuff is well thought out by strategists who sit down and watch all the ignorance that is going on in the Black community on YouTube. And then they go back and plan out your demise. And you are being an active, willing participant in the bullshit because you are not trying to stop or do anything else. Let's keep going. I want to show all this stuff to you because it's real life. This is really how a lot of these women are actually dying out here, simply because nobody is paying attention to what's going on in their life. But they're steady trying to tell other women what to do in their lives. This is the one where the domestic survivor advocate gets messed up. And when you hear this story, the thing that popped out to me was you in a relationship with another dude that's identical to the one that did the situation to you. And then you got another guy you run into. It's too much stupidity for me. And this is why Black women, you need to get out of this desperate mindset of thinking that you are the only women in this world that are undesirable, ugly, and fighting and need with all your heart to be in a relationship with a dude who doesn't want to be in a relationship with you. Now, I get it. I understand it. That is what is promoted all over this sector to you. And it does nothing but kill your self-esteem and bring down your self-confidence. But you got to be stronger than that. And you got to be smarter than that. You have got to understand that you are all you need in this world. If you were meant to be subservient or submissive to anyone in this world, God would have birthed you into this world with that motherfucker attached to your hip. But since you were born alone, a singular person, you need to travel through this world like that. You need to have the mindset like that. Of the only fucking thing that's important to me is what I need to do to take care of me in this life. And anybody that comes along in my life, if they're not positively supplemental to me, then they better get the fuck away from me and they're going to leave. I'm not going to cower and be afraid and not be able to speak in front of somebody that's trying to bully me or beat down and punch down on me. If that's the case, then I'm going to call the cops. I'm going to get orders of protections. I'm going to get a licensed firearm. I'm going to take my lazy ass to places that can teach me how to defend myself in hand-to-hand combat and how to get a motherfucker up off me when they feel like they're going to choke me out, slice me up to death, or beat me with some blunt object until I no longer move. You have got to stop this weak-minded bullshit. And a lot of this stuff comes from you all conditioning and convincing yourselves of all that dumb shit you talk about on here on YouTube with the damsel in distress mentality. And what's good for the white bitch is good for me. When you know that you live two different fucking lives and that the world is anti-fucking black. So you have to extra protect yourself against all the ills of life that are directed towards you and only you. You got to stop playing with this bullshit. And all of that talk about you don't want to be a strong black woman when you are misconstruing the definition of what that means. Nobody's telling you to go out here and shuck and jive for white people. People are telling you when I say I am a proud black woman, that means that I am mentally resilient, physically resilient, and I will do whatever it takes in this life to make sure Stephanie gets what the fuck she needs out of life. Period. And if that means raking through my husbands and destroying them in a divorce, or kicking some motherfucker out that I thought was good for me that turned out to be dysfunctional for me, I'm doing it. And if that means taking a metal bat and going upside his motherfucking head, or whatever else it is I have to do to make sure that I come out as the victor, that's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to cower and believe in shit that was taught to me that is not true, that causes you to become victims in everyday life scenarios. Like, oh, a woman can't fight a man, a woman can't raise a son, you could never win against a man because he's stronger, you're weaker. That's all mental conditioning to make you weak, to be controlled, and to make you be defeated. Weapons are the ultimate equalizer. Now, yes, if you're a little bitty person with no type of muscle tone or no muscle strength, of course, I'm not going to expect you to hold your own against a person who actually knows how to handle themselves. But at no time am I ever expecting you to give up and give in on yourself because you just got no win and you don't think that much of yourself to even fucking try. That's what I'm talking about. So I want to show this part where this lady didn't even try to give herself a real chance. And I'm not blaming the victim or none of that shit. I'm talking about the facts that were presented in this case. Why are you dealing with these dudes when you just left them and now you have to represent what happened to you and how to present it from continuing to happen to other women? It makes no sense. Just leave them alone. Period.
Crazy when you see these black women always marching and protesting and fighting for the king. This is, sweetie, they hate your guts. Nobody wants to talk about that. Fair use. Let's watch.
All right, some other news tonight. A well-known local rapper is facing murder charges in what investigators believe to be a horrific instance of domestic violence.
The victim is Kelly Mays, a well-known survivor of domestic violence who found her voice helping others suffering through abusive relationships at home. Accused of killing her is Jimmy Lee Brown, a rap artist known as Super MC, who appeared in the movie 8 Mile. Sean Lay, live at Highland Park tonight with more on a terribly disturbing case. Sean.
Incredibly disturbing. The loss of Kelly Mays really sending shockwaves, Devin and Kimberly, throughout the community right now. We've had Kelly Mays on Local 4 News, such a strong advocate and voice for domestic violence survivors. She is was a survivor herself, working in the Speakers Bureau for Haven, the group that advocates for domestic violence victims. Family tells us she married Jimmy Brown. He's memorialized here in a mural in Highland Park. He's from Highland Park, Super MC. He's now charged with slashing her to death inside her own apartment on Sunday. His rap name, Super MC from Highland Park. His image included on this mural here just off Woodward Avenue in HP. But today, another look at the face of Super MC. His real name, Jimmy Lee Brown. This is his booking photo. Brown is charged with murder. The victim, prosecutors tell us, Brown's girlfriend, Kelly Mays. Mays, a well-known domestic violence survivor, activist, speaker, and poet.
They say laughter is the best medicine. If I keep laughing, maybe I'll be cured.
Mays' life taken in a horrific instance of domestic violence inside her Westland apartment this past Sunday. Mays was found slashed to death. Deep lacerations, multiple lacerations to her neck and to her chest. The Wayne County Prosecutor's Office says Super MC, Jimmy Lee Brown, Mays' boyfriend, allegedly attacked Mays with a knife, killed her, and ran from the apartment, turning himself in at the Westland Police Department a short time later. Kelly Mays.
Now, let me just say to y'all once again, because I don't mean no disrespect to this woman, her family, and her children that devil took their mother away from, right? But it's the behavior I'm speaking to, Black women. You gotta stop it. You gotta stop with that mentality of I can only see myself with a Black male. And if I'm gonna be in a relationship, and I'm by no means trying to advocate white niggas to you, because that's not what I do. But why don't you try just being by yourself? Why do you have to have a relationship? And if you have to have a relationship, why can't you go out of your way to get to the point where your standards are so fucking high that the first time they fuck up, you like out next? Because it seems like that's the only way you're going to survive. Because if y'all keep dealing with these low-level black dudes in every stratification they come in America, you're going to keep dying. And as much as you try to hide from it and act like it doesn't exist, it does. And there's nowhere you're going to run from it. The only thing you could do is avoid it and not be involved in it so it doesn't happen to you. Then when it comes to the other things that they perpetuate against you, like violence in the street, you are 100% within your right to fuck them up if they try to fucking hurt you. It's that serious. So I don't understand why we keep having these conversations and why so many black women keep dying, because they are not that necessary in the black community or in black women's lives on a whole. They contribute nothing to society and nothing to black women or children. They bring all types of trauma and chaos. And if you don't stop listening to these foolish women on here, always teaching you to constantly be in a limerick mode where all you do is fantasize about these motherfuckers, you're never going to stop dying. And that's the reality of it. And in saying that, let me show you the whole thing about limerance so we can wrap this up with the tricks that this chick is pulling on her channel to keep you locked into this limerance type of goddamn mentality. It's just too stupid. It's just, it don't make no sense, y'all. It don't make no sense. It really doesn't. I mean, it's so sad all the time to have to worry about this. Oh, I got rid of the limerance. I got to go get it. But it just makes no sense to constantly see these videos of women being hurt, them leaving behind all these children that no one's going to take care of, and that who are going to grow up scarred and have all types of mental problems of their own because their mother is not here anymore and was taken out of this life, excuse me, by such a violent, unnecessary death, by people, by black males. Stop saying people. And guys, when you're discussing these things, please, right? Be very clear about who you're talking about when we're talking about black femicide, domestic violence, and all the types of traumatic things that happen to black women, because what's happening is that when you don't identify these black males as the ultimate offender of what these guys are doing to you, they're getting a pass. And they're continued to allowed to be put in society by white America as the good guy, or, oh no, it's not this guy, it's the other guys that are like him. No, it's all of them. All right. That even happened to me when I told y'all I was coming back from the California Black Women's Femicide march that they said was going to happen, that they canceled and didn't let anybody know. When I was on my way back, I ran into that white lady. I told y'all about her. And she was asking me about why I was in Cali. And I was telling her, well, okay, I was here for the Black Women's Femicide march that was canceled, but they didn't say it was canceled. All right. So she went on to like go into this whole freaking, how you say what, diatribe, or even like a whole fucking speech about how she could never believe that that was possible. Black femicide was happening to black women on the level I'm saying it is because of one fucking neighbor that she had supposedly living next to her was a black male who's supposed to be well-to-do and a single parent. So I said to her, why would you even suggest and try to insult my intelligence about something I am way more familiar with than you would ever be? And then base your response to me, not even response, your retort, based off of one individual who's probably so assimilated into life, he don't even know what the word acculturated means, right? She knows what I'm talking about. So she just looked at me and was like, oh, well, I never thought about that. I said, yeah, you wouldn't think about it that way, because you seem to think that the way you think about things is the only way it is, when that's not the case at all. You cannot tell me, the Black woman, the person who is more entrenched in this dysfunction than anybody else in this country, what Black males are capable of. Don't even begin to try to do that. So this is why it's important, right? That when you're having these conversations and when you're telling these stories, you have to identify them as the offender, as the murderer, as the killer, because people have to let go of this false image of who they're trying to make these dudes out to be, these Black males out to be, simply because they want to kiss their ass because they're in love with the fantasy of hip hop, right? The fantasy of the trends that these Black males put in society, and this false sense of bravado and machismo that these Black dudes give off, that makes other guys of other groups want to feel like they're not cool if they're not emulating these fucking psychotic, insane, lunatic murderers, okay, of women and children. So it's important for y'all to understand this shit and not sit there and just be like, well, I don't really think it's that deep. It is that deep. It is that deep. It is that deep because it's happening to Black women every day, every 4 to 5 hours of the day. But let me just tell you, right, that I didn't leave that white woman with just that. I pulled out my phone and I said, in case you want to not believe me, I want to show you and give you reference for things to go back to in the future. I pulled up the pages of Black Girl Unlost. I pulled up American Crime, Twisted Crime. What was the other one? I pulled up Unbiases and Unboss's page and showed her all of the Black femicide she had listed there. It was a couple other pages, because what I did was I went to the ones that fly off my head off the top, those 4 right there, right? And then I did the YouTube search, right, for all the Black femicide channels, and I showed her. It was like over 1,000 different what do you call that when you get the results back. And I told her, I said, if this wasn't a real problem, you would not have all of these research hits as a result of. I said, so in the future, do not judge a collective of guys by one dude that lives next door to you, probably kissing white people's asses every day, just so that he could live in that community without any issues on the block. And she looked at me like I was crazy. And I said, no, that's really how it is. Because you know how y'all do. Burning crosses on people's lawn, fucking up their property, trying to chase them out the neighborhood, and all that ignorant shit y'all do. So don't sit here acting like it's not true. American history, it is what it is. Well, after that, she didn't really want to talk no more, and she left, rightfully so. But at least she got an education that day. Whether she wants to use it or acknowledge it, that's on her. But I definitely let her know the shit you talking is not nothing about, has nothing to do with the reality we live in. And this is what is perpetuated in society all the time. This is why when you watch television and you see movies and commercials, you see these Black males with white women, and they try to totally eliminate Black women like we don't exist. It's because this is the refusal up front. This is the cognitive dissonance of these people not wanting to deal with the realities of the danger, the killing, and the hatred of Black women by Black males. But you know what? It's okay, because you have these task force out here now, these committees, and you have Black women and other Black males who are actually standing up in states I never even thought would stand up the way that they're standing up, and trying to now increase the patrol of the police. increase the omnipresence of police in neighborhoods with foot posts and quicker response times and meetings with the mayor and the chiefs of police or whatever else it is they got going on in individual states and towns where they are alerting the police. We are no longer going to just keep allowing Black women and children to just be killed because some Black male is having a bad day. So that is the message you want to keep and help push into society, and not be on YouTube talking about relationships and trying to say that your mom or your grandmother is trying to kill your joy from keeping you from being in a situation that is going to end up deadly for you. Because you're the one walking around with rose-colored glasses thinking that all you got to do is be pretty and this man is going to love you forever and worship you, and whatever fantasy you got going on in your head is going to become a reality, when it's not going to be the case. He's going to do traditionally what Black males have done in this country since slavery, after slavery, and current day. He's going to gaslight you, love bomb you, then beat your ass, use you up for all your resources, and if it is part of who he is, he's going to kill you and probably your children as well. So can we stop fucking around and deal with the facts and stop running from how horrific the truth is? All right, I want to show you this video to try to let you guys know what limerance is, because you need to self-regulate and you need to stop falling for this shit that these women are doing on YouTube. Sorry about that. I'm gonna have to talk through the commercials. You know how that is. So you're gonna have to stop doing that, because they're setting you up to believing this shit because they need you to be stuck in this mind zone so you can keep paying them so they can keep living good off of your dime from YouTube checks.
Other people better so that we can have important thing to contextualize if this is what we're doing. Because as with any psychological block or thing that is getting in our way of having happier and healthier lives, if we are not naming it properly, we're not really able to tackle it effectively. And a lot of the time when we are limerent, what we think we're doing is speculating about developing a close connected relationship with someone, when what we're actually doing is soothing some sort of negative emotional state that's arriving for us in the moment with a romantic fantasy. So expecting to form a close, connected, loving relationship in reality through limerence is kind of like expecting to make a baby through masturbation. It might feel like a similar act, but it does not at all produce the same result. So today we're going to look at 5 signs that you might be using limerence as a means of self-regulation. Before we get into those, I will quickly go over what I mean when I say self-regulation. So co-regulation in the psychological sense means managing our emotional or physiological state through connection with another person. So this can be as simple as talking to a friend when you're stressed out and noticing that your stress level starts to decrease as you're speaking with them. They're mirroring you back to yourself. It could mean going in for a prolonged hug with a loved one and noticing your body start to relax the longer you stay with that physical touch. So co-regulation is a very wonderful and important part of life, as is self-regulation. So self-regulation, in the psychological sense of the term, is managing our emotional and physiological state without input from another person. So the parallel examples here might be journaling out your feelings when you're feeling stressed out and overwhelmed, and noticing that the more you name your own feelings and sit with them, the more your state starts to change. Or taking a warm bath, or feeding yourself a meal that you enjoy, or doing exercise when you're in some sort of uncomfortable physiological state that returns you to a more comfortable state. Both self and co-regulation are very important parts of being alive. However, some of us have learned to over-rely on one or the other, or in certain areas, we might over-rely on one or the other. So maybe we're perfectly comfortable seeking out help and support at work, but not in our romantic relationships, or vice versa. In most areas of life, it's very important to develop discernment around when co-regulation is the best overall choice for both ourselves and the other people we're seeking it out from, and when we need self-regulation. And often, limerance comes up when what we're craving is co-regulation, but there's some sort of block in the way of us feeling like we can get it. So maybe we're experiencing toxic shame, and going to another person and telling them what we're going through and experiencing feels way too vulnerable, and we feel like we would be rejected. So limerance can be this way of self-regulating and imagining the sense of connection that we're seeking in a way that changes our physiological state or our emotional state temporarily and can help kind of return us to baseline. Now, where we get into trouble is when we're being limerent, but we're not aware that what we're doing is using it as a self-regulatory tool. Then we start thinking, okay, reality needs to start resembling my fantasy in order for me to feel okay, not recognizing that the fantasy was all we really needed in that moment. Now, once again, limerence is to love what masturbation is to sex. It might feel similar to the real thing. However, it is not the real thing. The problem is that we don't usually mix up masturbation and sex. We usually know when we're doing which one. With limerence and love, a lot of us are very quick to mix those things up. We might think that thinking these limerent thoughts about somebody is loving them, when in reality, all we're doing is soothing ourselves. So what?
Okay, I want to speak to that really quickly. And I also want to tell you guys, when I share these other people, I intentionally and deliberately put their names on the screen for you guys to later on go watch more videos, become more informed, and help transform your mentality. That white lady right there, I actually like her a lot because her examples are very understandable and she's straightforward, right? It's not a lot of all this psycho babble and you got to pick up a book to figure out what she's saying. She's really good. If you're interested in it, I would suggest you go watch the entire 5-part series she has on limerance, because limerance is heavy, right? And then she also has videos on how to become a person to follow through with things you need to do to change your life and to stop being taken advantage of or being abused. She's very good. In addition to her, you guys know that there are tons of Black women on here as well. But the problem that I find with the Black women therapists or psychologists or psychiatrists is that they tend to also be too overwhelmingly male identified. And they make too many excuses for the issues that go on in the Black community between Black males and Black women. So you can't go wrong with a person who's not aware of what the hell is happening in our community, but just giving you the raw, uncut information of how things work, why they work the way they do, and why you're hung up on the fantasy. Now, what she just talked about will explain the indoctrination and the whole process of why a lot of these Black male content creators are always on YouTube trying to gaslight you and indoctrinate you into the belief that you're not good enough, or as she says, you're to be rejected because the reason why they don't want to date you, the reason why they don't want to marry you, the reason why they like a white woman or somebody else over you, the reason they got a problem with your attitude, the reason they got a problem with you supposedly raising little boys to become criminals as grown males, right? And the reason why you're not able to do anything with those young men or young males that go out in societies and intermingle and socialize with other Black males who are already criminals, already disgusting, deceitful, diabolical, insidious, and have all this vitriol for women. They choose very carefully the direction they want their narrative to go, and they choose very carefully the words they use to invoke the limerence she was talking about, the lowering of your self-esteem and the self-doubt, and to imply you will be rejected because that's just how it is. When if you would strip all that shit away from yourself, nothing they say would ever affect you. and nothing they did would ever convince you that you need to be involved with them individually or collectively. So this is why I said today was like really a video about information, because I want y'all to understand that these dudes are hand in hand with these white male racists that want to rule this country and take you back to the 1930s. They are upset with what is happening in South Korea, Japan, other places where women who are not traditionally known to fight for feminism and women's rights and just to be deemed an equal human being. It's upsetting, this patriarchal structure all over the world. So with America being this world power and this sort of great imperialistic influence all over the world, if America, who is the same America that put the blueprint down for South America's apartheid and all of the different forms of anti-blackness and dehumanization and crimes against humanity in all the rest of the world, they were going to jump at the chance to show every other country that is having a problem with their women standing up and fighting for their rights, how to squash and put down that rebellion. This is why it's important for you to stop playing and worrying about shit Shira's saying about dudes in relationships, the bullshit Priscilla's peddling about this limerance mindset and why you need to back her and support her monetarily because she's doing something just and useful for you, when in fact she's not. She's just manipulating you to stay in a mindset of lack, want, and rejection and limerance, where you're gonna always feel like you're missing out on something when that's not the fucking case at all. Because the things that the disgusting individuals, those black males you're trying to be involved with, are the ones who are killing you every day, hurting, harming, and taking the lives of your children, and creating households where you don't feel safe inside them. Your children are not safe, and you're not safe to say, I don't want to be in this relationship anymore. And they're taking your lives from you. They're isolating you from your loved ones and people who are concerned about your life and the existence of you in this world, and for you to be able to grow old in this world. They're taking that away from you. And these women on here, I'm sorry to say, whether you like them or not, they are participating in that movement as well. They are people who are going along with all this manosphere shit and all of this tearing down of black women, because what benefits the black males, they know if they piggyback off of the format of what those guys are doing, they might monetarily benefit as well. And that is what's happening out here. And yes, I see everybody's comments. I see you, Kiana and Nora, where you're saying, that this is going on in other parts of TikTok and etc. And it's true, because these people are not really caring about what happens to the individual black woman or her family. They're only caring about, let me get a message out where I can get like 1,000 clicks or views so I can get some money. I just need to get some money. Hey, what's up, man? You literally have content creators on here who come on to their videos talking about how it's not fair that they don't make as much money as another creator simply because their message is not provocative enough, or it's not convincing enough to make black women feel awkward, ashamed, and rejected and bad for themselves, so that they're not making the money that Princella is making or Cynthia is making or somebody else is making. And that is their intention, to deceive you, manipulate you, keep you in a state of limerance where all this fantasy driven nonsense is floating around in your head of what could have been, what should have been, and what could be, when none of that is first of all, none of it is going to ever exist, because the male counterpart that you're dealing with is not up to par on any level. He doesn't have the emotional intelligence. He doesn't have the maturity, the money, the societal standing, any type of functional skills in life that adults should have to work through problems, be able to even participate in problem solving, all it is lack of impulse control and instant gratification. That's all they understand. And they do it in such a primal mode that the first thing they go to is violence and killing. And you all know it to be true. Many of us have seen that in our homes with our mothers being beat on, our older relatives, and all anybody related to us where they had an abusive man. So this is part of who they are. So for you to sit back and be conditioned and convinced that you're going to be that special black woman, that out of all these lunatics and maniacs walking around on God's green earth, you're going to find that special one who's not going to do what all of the collective has been doing all this time up into the present of me talking to you right now. You got to stop it. You got to stop being hoodwinked and gaslit with the bullshit on here and start thinking about real life stuff that's going to affect your ability to stay where you live, save money in the bank, to be able to eventually buy a home and partake in some of the many programs America has to make you rich and eventually one day wealthy. You don't have time to be playing about dudes that are useless, hopeless, and helpless when you should be focusing on what you're going to be doing for the future. Getting together with a few other like-minded women, buddying up through life, and making shit happen for yourself. All right. I gotta finish this part on this her Priscilla, and then go on to the Project 2025, and then I'm gonna be finished with the live, because I want y'all to start thinking outside of this nonsense, please. It is so serious, because your life is literally going to depend on it. You're either going to be able to survive or you're not. Now, I just want to say before I let some of this play, right? Because what she did was she went back and she used the Adigan Forest video of months and months ago when Nyla exposed it. Forget that black guy that exposed it. And then I came out with it, and then Unbiased and Unbossed did a whole expose on this dude to explain to us where he came from, what he did, and why, who he was. So she used the Adigan Forest tape to try to convince black women about this nonsense that she's constantly peddling on her channel to garner money for herself, because she needs to go get a fucking job, but because she don't have one, she needs to play mind games with black women so black women continue to pay her fucking rent, her bills, and take care of her, instead of her getting up off her lazy ass and taking care of herself by herself. Her and every other fucking male on here that's doing the same thing, and every other woman content creator worrying about dollars and cents from poor black women trying to make a living and get by the same way their grimy con artist ass is. So let's read this bullshit before we play it a little bit, right? This is from Cicero. And this is why I tell you guys, you must read the book, Dark Psychology. Go on to a lot of these different psychiatrists' page or sociologists' page and read and learn from them, because this is basic manipulation, the white lie and versus the big lie 101. This woman constantly uses partial information to manipulate you and to support her narrative without giving you the full story. Now, this quote right here is a quote of what not only she does to the listener, but it is what society has conditionally done to people in society that they deemed throwaways or less than important, or they were used to refer to them back in the New England days as gutter snipes and scallywags and ne'er-do-wells, right? All of those terms represented that the person was so low in society that education was not even worthy of their humanity, right? This is the same shit she's on. And if you really I don't have the time, nor do I give a fuck about analyzing this chick, but she has a lot of fucking issues, and y'all need to understand that she's more harmful than helpful, right? Because she tends to use a lot of Roman teachings and Roman dictatorship, influence, and manipulation tactics, right? Because this very person that she's talking about, this fucking Cicero guy, right? He, even though they're saying here he was a Roman statesman, this nigga was a senator, okay? If you look him up in history, you will see that this is one of the most despicable motherfuckers that lived. And all the Roman people were pieces of shit, okay? Which is why eventually they were overthrown by the little poor uneducated man, because they were so brutal and so disparate and barbaric in their rulership over people that they deemed slaves just because they existed. But this quote she's using here, the wise are instructed by reason, average minds by experience, and the stupid by necessity, and the brute by instinct. Now, even in reading this, if you are a person who has a lot of intellectual experience in life or life experience of world history, and you are a person that is well read and you just know shit about the world in different time eras of the world, you would know that this is the most backwards ass quote you could ever use to try to stand upon whatever narrative it is that you're trying to present to people to manipulate them, because every fucking person in this world is primal by nature, and they usually move based off of instinct. We have been taught this, we have been shown this through different sciences and even through actuality in life. When it's cold outside, you get a fucking coat. When you hungry, you eat. When you sick, you try to get well. When you got to go to the bathroom, you need a toilet. When you're crying, you need to wipe your eyes or ask for a fucking hug. So the things that are written in this quote are the immediate and just audacious fucking arrogance of people who decide to divide the human condition into levels of the haves versus the have-nots. This quote is not about intelligence. This quote is not about anything you should use to better yourself. This quote is about stratification in society and tearing a motherfucker down when they can't do no better than what they're already doing in life. This is bullshit. And believe me, if you studied the philosophers of that time, like Homer and others, you would see, and even before him, Socrates and Aristotle and all those different people, right? And there's so many more, right? They all came from this same I'm better than you type fucking mindset, and you need to get away from me because you smell, because you've sweat after you've worked a hard day, and me being the pompous piece of shit that I am, because I have more pieces of gold than you, I can hire people to sweat and I will not sweat, so therefore I'm better than you. Not true. Because you still breathe the same fucking air this person does. You still got to have water to live and food to live, or you're going to die the same way that poor man is going to die, whether he got as many gold pieces as you. And, it's just a thing of her always trying to pretend that she's so much smarter than the average woman listening to her when she's stupid. Because all she does is take selective pieces out of all types of written information, books, lectures, classic works, from literature, history, etc. And in this case, a piece of shit senator that ruled by killing people who disagreed with him, as points where, give me 1 second, y'all, sorry. As points that she could use, right? To try to make it seem like she's so on point with what Black women have to do. And if you listen to me and give me your money, I'm going to put you on the right path so you could be okay in all the days to come. When in fact, she's the biggest charlatan of them all. Of them all. But like I said, The quote is ridiculous. The quote is egregious. It's elitist. It's full of a person being just as arrogant as they can be because of the time that this particular murderer came from. And that's really all that shit is about. It's the nah, I know something you don't know. When any of you could have read this shit and you could have read the full history of Cicero, you could have read that him and all of his other statesmen and his senators at the time were really pieces of shit. And they did things to the people that today they would be in jail for, right? But at that time, because there was no prevailing law, they did whatever they wanted to do. And people who either buckled under it conformed, and those that fought against it were either jailed, killed, or thrown to the lions. So she's a fool for doing things like this. Now I'm going to play the clip because I want y'all to see the fact that she's trying to always sway everything in life into this ridiculous narrative that she has with her revenge against the men who have hurt her in her life, instead of just simply explaining to Black women. It's real simple. It doesn't take all of this bullshit and theatrics that I'm performing for you every day, but clearly for you to just understand that if stuff is not working in your best interest when you're dealing with this type of blackmail, stop doing it. It's that simple. But here, I just want you to listen to a portion of the shit that she's doing with a guy that all of us creators have gone over his videos and spoken about how the indoctrination and the Black women hate speech by these dudes are the reasons why we have so much Black femicide, so much assaults on Black women in society, so much of the human trafficking of our little girls and the prostitution of our children, and etc. It's because they're socializing themselves for this behavior online by way of the internet. And somehow she seems to have missed that. And I know why. Because it doesn't fit her bullshit narrative to keep getting money from Black women.
That the things that you need is what dictates your behavior. The male is stupid because everything he does is by necessity. Sex, putting himself in stupid situations behind punani.
I have to stop because I just have to tell you guys, when you're in the mindset, right, of believing that everything she says is on point because you just agree with her stance because of wherever you are in life with your issues with Black males, you're not thinking at all clearly, because the first statement she made was a crock of shit, right? We know that people can't just walk around doing shit based off of how they feel about things, because there are fucking laws in this world and there's consequences to your actions. So that throws that shit out the window right away. And it doesn't matter if you're a woman, male, or a child. All of us will pay for whatever it is we do in society if we break the law. So that's bullshit. Then the second part, when she talks about how they do things based off of their primal instinct and what is the consequence of that, like doing stupid shit for punani, right? That's also not true. Even though, listen to me now, even though the behavior as to why and how they are people that work off of primal instinct is not true, because once again, we live in societies where even if they do shit that harms another person or that is fundamentally wrong, there's going to be a fucking consequence. They know it, you know it, we all know it. So when these people do these things, it's not because they do it because they're doing it out of sheer utterance of no kind of knowledge of, oh, what's going to happen if I do this, the way she's trying to make it seem, or, oh, it's just a part of who I am and I can't do nothing about it. That's not fucking true. They do it knowing there's a fucking consequence and that you shouldn't be doing it in the first place, which is the most important piece as to busting through her bullshit, right? But the reason they do a lot of these things is because of what they tell you themselves online. We feel emasculated. We feel like we got no control over Black women because Black women won't submit to us. They will not listen to us. They will not suck our asses and do whatever we tell them to do without any pushback. This is the reality of shit. And this is why when you got all these con artists online like her and others, you have to be able to be so mentally equipped and so informed of all the things that happen in psychology and manipulation, because that is what they're using against you. Both those dudes that speak every day online, denigrating, downplaying, and dehumanizing Black women, and the women like her and others who are promoting relationships, promoting whatever she's doing with whatever she's talking about this week with the men and what women should do, when she's never talking about the reality of things. Women have to start to prepare for what is coming from the lawmakers in this country that we all have to adhere to. Now, understand me. You don't have to be bothered with a Black male if you don't choose to. There's nothing she's saying that is so rigid and so stuck in your existence that you need to give a fuck about what she's saying, because if it doesn't have to apply to you unless you want it to apply to you. I don't give a fuck about what she's saying. Not today, not tomorrow, not last week when she said. I don't even watch her channel to prove my point. But I live life as a Black woman every day. And when I see what happens to other Black women, I know that there are things that need to be done in this world to protect them, to have people speak up and advocate them, and for people to make change to protect them so that they live just as safe in society and in this country as every other fucking woman. And that anti-Blackness that is being created in this world to affect Black people, but affects Black women the most, is taken down just a little bit more so that Black woman doesn't have to suffer that much today, as well as she normally suffers every day of her life, whatever it may be in. Whether she's getting a lower pay than everybody else, she's getting a more critical fucking evaluation at work, she can't get into a housing building or buy a home she's interested in, or the neighborhood she want to live in, or the school she's been dreaming about forever, or whatever it is she wants to do. All of those type of everyday challenges that are true to life, that have not a fucking thing to do with that dumb shit these women are on here peddling to get you to pay for their lifestyle, is what I'm imploring you Black women to get away from. And realize that you got real shit coming ahead of you, where these white folks are going to try to make it so hard for you to ever get out of poverty, for you to ever escape the clutches of these maniacs killing you every day and keeping you into poor neighborhoods where nobody's trying to help you. And everybody, including the people that's supposed to care about you, are telling you that, oh, it's going to be all right, as some nigga is going upside your head. These white people are trying to make that your forever fucking reality. And you're not helping yourself by not understanding that you need to move away from that dumb shit and come up on the things that they're talking about in 2025. So when I go into this last part, I will wrap up this video with that. And I hope that some of the things that I spoke about today will propel you to start thinking about preparing yourself in every way for what's coming in the next election. Is not a joke, okay? It's not. I also want to take this time to say to you guys that on my community page, I was watching the Griot the other night with Ebony K. Williams, and there is I forget that lady's name, but she's the chair now of what's that place with Planned Parenthood, right? So she came up with, it's not an app, it is a chat bot, right? That works from an interactive internet, right? Based off of your geological location, to where if you need, let me go try to find it real quick just to put it in the video for other people that don't want to go to the community page. If you need to find out in whatever state you live in, because we know how these white folks have made almost every state banning a state where they ban abortions. Chat with Charlie. Okay, here we go. Right? They ban abortions. I want you to know that there are still places and many people out here actively dedicated to ensuring your rights, fighting for your reproductive rights, and they're providing information coupled up with doctors, lawyers, and legislators to make sure that you know that even in places like Ohio and Texas, where they're pretty much banning all types of abortion, there are still resources out there for you to save yourself and to get access to abortions so that you are not stuck in a life in poverty and you're not stuck in a life where you have no way to come up at any time because you're in a situation where they just keep beating you down and beating you down with stuff on top of your head whenever you try to bring your head up above water. So this is the stuff I want you guys to get yourselves in a habit of being involved in. Stop caring about Princella. Stop caring about Cynthia. Stop caring about Shira. That's all silly shit. You need to be out here worrying about your money, where you're going to live to be safe, how you going to take care of them kids if you got them, how to not have and stay away from all the violence that is part of the Black community, the part of the Black experience in America. Those are the things you need to be concerned with. You need to be able to take care of yourself financially and do whatever you want to do in this life, as long as you have some type of foot that you can put forward to put you on the path of where you want to be, whether it's education, trying to link up with other people to provide you the right steps or road to go down to get where you're trying to be, not worrying about relationships and if somebody wants to sleep with you or not. That is so stupid and so immature. It really is. And it's so problematic because you got other things coming to really crush you. And we worrying about dumb stuff that she's talking about, and she's only going to talk about it because she's making money from it. She's making money from it. Period. I'm just reading what Kiana said for a minute. Give me a minute. It's true. Now I'm gonna just put this up for a minute because listen here, y'all. What Kiana is talking about is very important because young Black women, you need to hear this because I know y'all, those of y'all that are on point and you're not in this separate and divide mentality with these age groups against other age groups, and you love and respect your mother and your older relatives, and you listen and you accept and take the guidance and get on with your life, you know what I'm about to say is really on point. When Kiana is saying here that these white folks are trying to keep Black women poor and they know that we're escaping the toxic corporate world, there was like literally about 10 or 20 articles in all of the big newspapers and magazines about introverted Black women in tech, becoming consultants, opening up their own businesses at home, doing consulting work, creating their own apps. I told you guys, I'm learning to do that right now, and I want you to learn to do the same. Even if you don't take the Google certificate course, I want you to go on Google and you learn how to use Figma backwards and forwards, because that is how we are taught to make apps. There's like 3 or 4 main programs that teach you how to create apps, but Figma is the main one. Figma, Figma. Learn that program. And then what you do is, the way they teach us to quicken our skills and to get better at what we're doing, you go on anybody's website. Like, I'm going to just say Travelocity because I like to travel, right? You go into Travelocity after you've learned how to use Figma backwards and forwards, how to make an app, right? And you replicate everything on that website that you see. If you see a picture, recreate the picture in Figma, but add more shit to it so that a person could see what's behind the building, or if they go into a room inside the picture, what it would look like, right? All these type of things are the skills you need that when you go to get an interview or you go for the job at some of these small or big businesses that hire UX designers, they're changing the name too. They're changing the name of the profession because too many people are hip to the game. When I find out what they change it to, I will tell you, okay? But they're changing the name. But this is how, when I watch like some of the Asian women that teach me, and this is one white lady from Europe, they give real information about the craft, how to get involved in it, when you get the job, what to do to make your experience with the company better, how to get employed by small companies that keep you longer than bigger companies like Google and etc. They go into all this stuff. This is the stuff that you need to be learning about. This is why what Kiana is saying and what they propose for 2025 is important, because I told you guys, they have everybody right. There's somebody right now watching this video of me talking to you. There's some strategist somewhere sitting down and taking in all the stuff I've been telling you. And their job is to combat what I've told you and put shit out into society to take your mind off of the things I've told you that you should be focused on. They're going to try to redirect you from that to go back onto worrying about silly shit that they got coming up that I saw this today when I woke up this morning making breakfast, watching TV, to turn your mind around to unimportant bullshit instead of the real shit you should be concerned with. Like in New York City, they got this new show coming, right? What? Let me try to say. What was the name of this dumb ass show that I saw them Impact? Wait. Let me think. Yeah. Impact New York, right? So you know how they got all that other shit, like that stuff, the Real Housewives, all this not hip hop, this hip hop that, Miami, New York, whatever. They got a new fucking show coming out in New York City called Impact New York. And this is the old fucked up, washed up Instagram models, right? Now, the reason they're doing this is because I've noticed that a lot of these young girls that were out here getting the BBLs and online trying to sell sex and sell themselves, thinking that that was going to make money for them to live the rest of their life off of, are starting to wake up. And they're starting to realize that that shit is not in anymore. And all these little girls that were stripping, fucking people for money and doing all that fly me out bullshit, they sat down. They're good with computers. They've gotten degrees. They've gotten certificates. They're doing everything, data analysis. They're doing everything you could think of. And these little girls are making real money. And you remember I told you that these people are always watching the trends that's going on with the Black women, because the Black women are the money in the Black community. So there are channels on here like Brown Girls in Tech. So many other women that are real women showing you this is really what I do all day. This is how I got this job. This is what I do to maintain it. And when I need to make extra money, this is what I also do. Then you have the other Black women that is on here showing you how to get governmental contracts for doing the same shit they're doing at these firms and small businesses to make money. They're seeing that trend, and they're seeing these women who actually have brains in their head, who are still younger than 35, going and making 5 to 6 figures, setting themselves up in life, so that where they had made this prediction of Black people being 50% unemployed by 2030 and completely destitute by 2050, that portion of young women, they're not going to be able to touch. They see that, they know that. Because even if you take those women's jobs, they're so fucking educated and they have so much experience in doing what they're doing that they can consult or they can create an app that no one has seen that will assist another thing that is already operating to make it that much better. This is what they teach you in UX design and all these other things that they're teaching online with these certificates. So these people are never unemployable. That's the point I'm trying to make to y'all, right? So as they're seeing this, they are thinking to themselves, well, how can we redirect these young women? Because the rest of these silly bitches that are on here talking about relationships and black males and fighting over who got more subscribers and this, that, and the other, they're done for. They never going nowhere in life. But these young group of bitches over here that are IT smart and AI smart, and they're creating their own apps and their websites, and they're doing shit where they're combining software and different programs and doing shit that we never thought they were going to be able to do. How do we distract them and get them back in the pot of going nowhere? So they come up with the fact that they know, or they think, which is true for too many of us, that social media and celebrities, black women, especially young black women, are really influenced by. So they're creating this new dumbass show called Impact New York with like 4 or 5 washed up IG models to take those young girls' heads off of what they're doing and put it back on these old bitches that used to sell their ass online, and try to make it appeal to them, to make them think that, oh, you know what? Maybe I need to go back to doing that because maybe there's money in that again. When it's not, it's not. It's a distraction, a media distraction to knock you off your game and to take away all the things that you have accomplished so far and to make you stagnant in life, so that when they influx this technical wave that they got coming, that the President Biden was working on with 31 different high-tech companies throughout this nation, you're going to be left behind. And I've been telling y'all that since last year. I've been telling you, even if you don't want to go back to school, you could sit on a fucking computer and get a certificate the same way you sit online and watch the bullshit Princella is talking about, or the bullshit Shira or Cynthia or anybody else is talking about. If you could do that dumb shit, you could damn sure invest in yourself so that you know that when all of the jobs that you used to be able to get like this are gone, you could sit down, pay for somebody to put a resume for you together. And even though remote jobs take a little time to get, because they clearly do, right? Sometimes they take almost 6 months to get. You are still in a better position than someone who has never invested in themselves and never even considered trying to further educate themselves to be that much more employable. That's why what she said is so fucking important. It's not funny. Good. I'm glad you're in a remote. Now, me, I told y'all I try to keep like many irons in the fire. Now, my full-time job, we're slated to go 3 days out of the week remote in February. I already do a part-time remote as it is. But now when I'm home, I will be doing that much more to further my education and get other things on the side to have extra money and other streams of income, because Black women, if you do not know it by now, that is the key to never, ever having an issue in America. And that is to always have different forms of income. And I don't mean no social media bullshit, because as soon as this shit gets to the point where politicians feel like it needs to go away, YouTube is going to end. Okay? And you know it will happen the same way y'all never thought you'd see the day that they would throw Cynthia off of YouTube and throw Fresh and Fit, demonetize, whatever you want to call it. But all this shit comes to an end. So before it does, make sure you well on your way to prepare yourself to be able to go, that shit was fun, but it don't stop what I'm doing in life. I'm still able to live good and do what the hell I was doing before that shit came around. That's how you always want to be in life. Whatever they drop on you in this life, you're supposed to always be in a position to keep going, keep thriving. Don't ever let them stunt you in life where you all fucked up and got to start all over again. That's why it's important for you guys to be on things like nerdwallet.com to find out about all the things that is out there to help you increase your money, help you do whatever it is you need to do in life with real, verifiable, confirmed, verified information. But before I go, let me show you this about the abortion information. All right, so this is Chat with Charlie. Now, for those of you that are concerned with this chat bot taking your information and you being subject to the government pulling your information from this chat bot to come and get you, to possibly arrest you, or whatever the fuck it is they do in Texas and Ohio and all them other dumb fucking states, this doesn't work like that. It takes basic information and it doesn't take any of your personal information. But what it does is it gives you private, secure, and anonymous information for you to go everywhere you need to go within a state that is banning or barring or restricting you from an abortion, to get all the information you need so that you can make a healthy and advised decision to end your dilemma or situation. Okay? This is important. I will most definitely add that link into the description of this video after I close out the live. But I seriously want you guys to understand, right, that they're coming for us. They're coming for us because they see the divide. We are no longer being the breeders for these black males to fill up their jails, for them to rely on them as they've been doing it all this time, and that's scaring them. The status quo of white America is being challenged at this point. And this is why all of these not just chaotic, but barbaric, right, and archaic decisions and rules and laws that people died and fought for to get rid of, they're bringing back out the crates because they need to push the women down because the women are surpassing the men. And they don't like it because their egos are too fragile for that shit. And that's just how it is, y'all. So I'm going to share this last part about 2025. I'm gonna tell y'all to have a good day. And I'm gonna see y'all next time. But I'm gonna try to keep being as informative as possible because I really want black women to understand that this is really about survival right now. This is not about relationships and trying to worry about who thinks you're attractive and who doesn't think you're attractive. You really need to seriously, y'all, understand that it's deviant forces at play here, and they're not fucking playing with us. They're not. They're not. They want us to be out of here. Man, just give me 1 minute. I want to take this off the screen. Okay. All right. I'm going to play this.
Crackpots, insurrectionists, and weekend terrorists are laying the groundwork to turn our government into a Trumpist nightmare if the former president somehow manages to get back into the White House in 2024. The AP reports on the plan laid out by a Project 2025, a government in waiting for Trump's return. Quote, the idea is to have the civic infrastructure in place on day one to commandeer, reshape, and do away with what Republicans deride as the deep state, firing as many as 50,000 federal workers. The goal is to oust employees they believe are standing in the way of the president's agenda and replacing them with like-minded individuals. That should sound familiar since it's directly linked to Donald Trump's authoritarian plans overall. The New York Times reported in July that Trump and his associates have a broader goal: to alter the balance of power by increasing the president's authority over every part of the federal government that now operates by either law or tradition, with any measure of independence from political interference by the White House. Numerous former Trump officials are involved with Project 2025. And look, it's not some shadowy behind-the-scenes effort. It's been open about its plans to gut worker protections and dismantle environmental protections. It includes their plans to make pushing right-wing Christianity the federal government's job. It's all in there in the nearly 1,000-page playbook calling on the next president to maintain a, quote, biblically based social science reinforced definition of marriage and family. As Guthrie Graves Fitzsimmons writes for MSNBC, concerned about policies of this kind aren't only about the possible return of Donald Trump to office. This is about the next Republican president, whoever it may be, is going to be pushing Christian nationalism. Joining me now is David Korn, Washington bureau chief for Mother Jones, MSNBC political analyst, and author of American Psychosis, which comes out on paperback next week. David.
Our democracy depends on you.
It really does, folks. That's no joke.
I always say that the most dangerous people when it comes to protecting our government, it ain't the guys in shaman costumes, right? It's not the weekend warriors with Punisher signs on their flak jackets that they got at REI. Okay, it's men and women in suits who write policy, who slowly but surely undermine our government. Put this Project 2025 in the frame. How dangerous is this?
Well, let me expand from that a little bit, because a lot of people watch, a lot of people concerned about authoritarianism in America focus on Donald Trump.
Right.
And I think rightfully so. He incited violence. He says we should suspend the Constitution. And as we just saw, he has his own campaign plan to impose an autocratic government should he got back into the White House. But what we see with Project 2025 is a project funded at $22 million that has dozens of right-wing, far-right groups that have been in town and that are considered established right-wing organizations, like the Heritage Foundation. They've been doing something like this since 1980. Their first mandate for leadership was for the Reagan folks when they were coming in. And so now they have joined forces with Trump to sort of say, this is how you can do it. We know that Trump isn't capable himself. He doesn't have the discipline, the understanding of how government works. So here we have dozens of groups, hundreds of people, millions of dollars to put together a schematic plan for Trump to come in. And at the heart of it is getting rid of 10,000, 50,000, 100,000 or more federal workers. These are the people who, like, if the president comes in and says, I want to drill on the mall, they say, they're a career civil servant. They go, that's not what the law says, Mr. President. This is why you can't do this. The sign says that. Well, now under this plan, Trump could say, you're out of here.
Right.
There's a loyalty oath. There's an oath to my policies if you don't do what I want you to say. And so the whole idea of an independent, expertise-driven civil service government workforce
would be gone. I want to play you some sound because this is really important. This is Paul Dans. He's director of the 2025 Presidential Transition Project on firing federal employees, because I think this is key.
Yeah.
Ultimately, what we want to do is make sure that the federal bureaucracy is being directed by the people through the president and his team.
Here's the thing. We already have the Republican organization. I keep saying they are not a party. They are a terrorist front. They're basically a cover for the MAGA terrorist movement. And remember, they didn't even have a platform in 2020. They just wanted a loyalty pledge. Essentially, what this guy is saying is, we're going to put nice words about it, but we want every federal employee to have a loyalty pledge, not to the government. I mean, not to the government in general, not to American citizens, but only to Donald Trump. How dangerous is that, and how close would that take us to just absolute authoritarianism?
Well, I think it's highly dangerous because there are a lot of issues out there, whether it's, public health, right? Even foreign policy, where there are things that are not, up to now, have not been considered partisan. There are policies, there are ways to do things. If you want to build an airport, there are regulations. The EPA has people who specialize. Now Donald Trump could come in and say, well, you know what? I want that airport near my country club. And I don't care what EPA regulations it violates. If you say it's wrong, you're fired. And so the chilling effect this is going to have, and anybody out there who might watch MSNBC at home, they come in and they, well, you're watching MSNBC, you're out of here.
Right.
And so it really gives them this total control. And it's part of this whole move on the right to come up with a unitary executive. For decades, they've been pushing this, saying that we don't have balance of power and checks and balances, that the president gets to run the show. It's not what the Constitution says. Nope. I don't think that's what the founders envisioned, but it is an authoritarian, autocratic government. And when you put that in the hands, particularly of someone like Donald Trump, a narcissist who wants all this power, it is a recipe for tremendous danger and for the consolidation of power that undermines democracy.
And also,
all right. And let me just explain it to y'all. It's true, because with all that jargon they were saying, it comes down to this. The president, Donald Trump, he wants to get rid of the branch of government that controls the president, which is the executive branch, right? If he gets rid of that, there is no such thing anymore as checks and balances. It goes back to him being equivalent to a king, equivalent to a dictator, a fascist, whatever he says goes. And don't think that we're all crazy by bringing this to your attention and you not thinking that this is possible, because it is very possible, because all it takes is for a certain amount of representatives to vote on a change, and you can change the Constitution, you can change the branches of government, you can change the powers of the president, you can do all of that by a certain number of representatives voting in favor of the madness you want. Which is why that Project 2025 is so important, because a lot of the people that they spoke about have literally been trying to get this to take effect in America since even before 1980s. They've been trying to do this since, I would say, like the 1920s. Okay. The Heritage Foundation, they are white people that believe that only white people should have anything in this country. They believe that the Catholic Church should be in control of everybody's destination or where their life should be in this country, meaning that women should be home barefoot and pregnant, should not have rights to an education, be able to escape their husbands or divorce their husbands or have a life of their own. You are supposed to go back to what America had in the beginning as being property of your husband, period. Property of your father first, and then property of your husband. Which is why it's so important for people to vote when it's time to vote, and not to be redirected by stupid talking points that make people think that your vote is not going to count or it doesn't make a difference, when in fact it does. The only reason why Trump and anybody else becomes as powerful as they are is because they have been able to put other allies or hype men, so to speak, of their own in positions of power, where when they call on those people to do what they want, they're going to do it without hesitation, which means the end of your rights and more rights for them. He's basically talking about getting rid of all of the governmental agencies that protect discrimination of Black people and others. He wants to get rid of the FBI. The FBI, they do a very good job in making sure the police do what they're supposed to do, and that people who are missing or human trafficked return home, and there's some type of penalty given to the people who did that shit to them. He also wants to get rid of the Department of Defense. And the Department of Justice, not Defense. I made a mistake. Department of Justice, which was created to make sure that African American people were protected from the many discriminatory laws and acts of violence that happened and that were perpetuated towards us and against us in this country. If this man comes in and he gets rid of the FBI, the Department of Justice, and whatever else he wants on the federal level, that where that branch regulates the checks and balances of the whole country, there will be no one to stop him from doing whatever he wants to do. And so that if he one day says, I am so very tired of Black people being free, being able to walk around in public without chains on their necks, feet, hands, backs, and walking around without Iron Maiden devices on their faces, I think that I want to put them back in slavery today, signed by the president. That's the power that fool would have. Which is why it's so important for you guys to become educated about your civic duties in voting, so that when these people go to be voted into office, outside of the ones that get appointed by the president into positions where they can take away affirmative action and Roe versus Wade, you have an obligation, because there are more black people and other people of color in this country than white people. Even though they try to fool you and make you believe that you're a smaller population than what you really are, you outnumber white people like 200 to 1. All right. And black people to white people has always been like 5 to 1. So we have never been the minority in this country. Black people have always been the majority in this country in reference to white people. And now you got all these foreign people here, which is why all these crazy white people need to control the country the way they are trying to control it. So when it is your turn to go vote, because they're always trying to take away your right to vote and your right to exercise your voice in this society, you need to take that shit seriously, because it makes the difference between you having the rights that you enjoy today or going back to days where you had no fucking rights at all. And don't tell me it can't be done, because you have already seen them take away Roe versus Wade, affirmative action. And those were 2 Supreme Court cases where hundreds of people gave their lives up for to get those things put in place in America. And you see them wipe it away with the writing of a pen. So when it is time for you to go out and vote, vote with conviction. Vote with keeping these crazy fucking Republicans out of office and every other crazy white person that feels like the only people that deserve to have rights in this country are white people. Don't forget about the shit that DeSantis did in Florida. Don't forget about the disrespect to Black history and Hispanic people being thrown out the country and thrown into detention centers and taken away from their children. Don't forget about none of that shit. Don't forget about motherfuckers like Nikki Haley, who hides the fact that her daughter is married to a black guy that her daughter went to school with. But yet this bitch was the governor of, I think it was South Carolina, one of them, North or South Carolina, and she did nothing but make laws against black people all day. Do not forget this. And she was the one who decided that she refused to give black people any acknowledgement in saying that the Civil War was based solely on ending slavery. She didn't want to talk about slavery at all, knowing that everything in this country surrounds itself about slavery then and now. Because the same infrastructures those white people created in slavery to grow their wealth and their importance in the world based off of their power and money that they got from free labor from black people is what makes them so fucking powerful today. Do not forget these things, because these people will sit in your face and make you believe that they're going to do the right thing by everybody, but they're not talking about you, black people. So you got to know who it is you should and should not vote for. And if it's anybody Republican, you know right off the bat, you shouldn't be voting for them, because they want what is best for white people and only white people. If you're a black person and you happen to get lucky and gain something by a few of them being in control at the time, you're just lucky. But your luck is going to run out eventually, because they do not have you in mind when he's talking about controlling the country. When you are the bodies they need to fuel this nation, why would they ever think about releasing you from your bondage? You guys, you gotta like start taking life seriously and stop playing with all this silly shit on YouTube. You could be beautiful and smart at the same time. You could be sexy, feel good about yourself, live a soft life, have everything you work in this life hard for to afford without dealing with a male that is going to take your life in exchange for anything he gives you or doesn't give you. You don't need the advice of Shira, Princella, Cynthia G, or any fucking body else to know that you're a grown woman now. So you need to worry about world events and how life is going to treat you now and in the future, so that you could be well prepared to take care of yourself and the generations to come, so that you have something to pass down to them that will keep them from living in the fucking street because these white people in control do not care how you live. Yeah, everything Kiana's saying is true. They need those black bodies. And with black women saying they're child free, they getting angrier and angrier day by day and trying to enforce and come up with laws to make it where we laughed at the shit that Umar was saying about trying to petition to cancel loving. But if these people feel so scared that their status quo of losing control of this country is going to go because you're not compliant, black women, then they will start doing things like that. But the only thing you could do to stop them is to constantly vote against them. Stand together, rally and petition for your rights. The same way the women in South Korea and Japan and everywhere else is doing the same thing at the same goddamn time. It has been time for a worldwide women's revolution. Y'all need to get on board and leave the bullshit of the relationships to the past. Yeah, her son-in-law is black. He looks like a jerk. He's a typical coon that wanted anybody that just wasn't black. And he looks it. He don't even have a prestigious job. He's a fucking teacher. So he's just a waste. A waste. But the Republicans are looking to use him as a way to tear her down in the eyes of the prejudiced white folks and prejudiced non-black folks. And they will be able to, because people are very anti-black. She says, yep. Anybody know these heavy advertisement for dating apps? It's all over New York City trains. It's true. And Patty, when you realize stuff like this, do not keep it to yourself. Whatever influence you have on people around you, especially young women and young girls, you expose that, you pass that on, you pay it forward, you explain to them why shit like that is something that when you see it, this is a form of dark psychology. This is manipulation because they need you not to change the behaviors that they have made money off of you doing for the past few centuries. You have to explain to them that 23 and 24 is the first time in history that black women started to segregate themselves from black males and to censor themselves and become selfish and self-sufficient and reliant and not be the predictable woman that's going to keep the money flowing for all of America. You know that's going to ruffle a lot of feathers with white people who don't make money unless they're making money off us. Yeah, Kay, that's the bottom line. And what that speaks to for people who are not as old as me, who do not remember what happened to their moms and stuff. Well, I'm not really that old. It would be my mother. But I remember the movies. I remember the lectures that I used to watch on CUNY TV about the feminist women who burned their bras in the middle of Washington Park and were down in New York City raising hell, and in Washington, D.C. for rights of women, equal rights for women and abortion rights and etc. It was something to marvel at because women refused to be wives, refused to be mothers, to the fact where the traditional roles, they literally walked away from. Women left their homes, went back to their mother's house. They moved into boarding homes with other women and took their children with them and refused to leave. They refused to go back home until they got rights. And I think that that's what's going to have to happen again. Women are going to have an all-out movement for women only to get our rights back, because the men feel like they're nothing without controlling us. So we have to show them that we are not going to be controlled. And you are not going to force us to have children when we don't want to have them. Because honestly, women, birth control aside, you don't have to fuck. If you don't fuck, you don't get pregnant. Period. And if you do get pregnant, there is still the choice of taking all types of tonics to make yourself abort children, whether you're going to go to jail or not. Because when you are fighting for the freedom of your gender, sometimes you have to be the person that's going to take one for the fucking team. That's just how it is. I don't know if y'all are aware of the black lady in Texas. I forget her name right now. Anybody who knows, please put it in the chat. She had a miscarriage, and she went to the doctor like 2 or 3 times before she actually miscarried, because she was carrying a dead baby, right? She ended up miscarrying somehow, and the dead baby's body was in a bucket in her home or whatever. She went to the doctor to tell the doctor what happened, because the doctor was trying to induce her because the baby was dead, right? The fucking nurse that was at the doctor's office dropped dime on the black woman to the authorities, which she should get in trouble for, because that is a violation of HIPAA. And also, it is not her fucking job to be calling the police on a person who has a natural miscarriage. So anyway, and she should be fired, because she shouldn't be putting patients' lives in jeopardy over her personal fucking beliefs. So anyway, they arrested this black woman. They put her on trial. They were going to sentence her to 1 year and a day in prison for improperly, all that shit they talk about, maltreatment of a corpse, all that bullshit, when it was not none of that, right? So anyway, she got off, right? And that's in Texas. But this is what they want. They want to pigeonhole women, but especially the black women that produce the babies and the bodies that make the money for the capitalist system of America to continue. This is why they're going so hard, because like Kay said, they see black women not getting involved in reproduction. They're worrying about, and rightfully so, concerned with a national ban on abortion, birth control. They're trying to take away the birth control pills. So for all you women out there that still have access to buying birth control pills by mail, stock up on that shit, because they're trying to take it away. And the fact that they want the no-fault divorce to be a thing in the past, to where now you have to have a legitimate reason and for it to be legal and to be acknowledged by a judge in order for you to get a divorce. So, but the solution to that is don't fucking get married. Do not get married. Do not cohabitate with men. Do not fuck men. Do not have children. And they can make all the laws in the world they want, but they will be making it for each other, because they will have no women to interact with. This is how you got to think. And that is how disciplined you have to be. Because when people are coming for your fucking neck, you got to show them that I'd rather die before giving up my fucking rights as what is entitled to me by fucking God. Not no man who has come up with rules and shit they want me to live by that are not in my benefit or my best interest. You've got to get to that point. Like this, you don't need marriage. You don't need dick. You don't need living with dudes. You don't need to fuck them, have their children. You don't need to do shit with them, but give salutations in the morning, afternoon, and night. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. You don't need nothing to do with them, because none of that shit is that serious. Fucking is not that serious. Getting married is not that serious. Having children is not that serious. Your safety and the right to be recognized as a full-fledged human being who shares the same freedoms and quality of life and rights and equality and justice in life as any other male, that of any male that walks around, should be given to you as a woman, because they wouldn't even be in this fucking world if it wasn't for a woman. is the epitome of disrespect, the epitome of minimizing people and their humanity to a level that should never be tolerated. Women should be losing their fucking minds about this shit and letting them know as loud as they can, we're going to bury your ass when it comes time to vote. You will not take our fucking right to live and to be free away from us and to make us live in a life of fucking tyranny. You will not do that to us. Who the fuck wants to live in tyranny? Who wants somebody beating their ass like they used to? Do women, when women were deemed property, not even able to speak up for their own fucking children. They're trying to take you back there if you did not know what you were going to. So y'all better wake up, put your petty bullshit with each other to the side, and stand united. Stand in solidarity against every law that affects women, period, but especially us. Because we're the ones that's going to take the worst out of it from everybody. Because white women still got money to rely on. They can fall back on their money and leave the country or go from state to state when they want something. Poor black women can't do shit but get on a Greyhound bus or try to run to their mama house. And if their mama don't got enough heart in their chest, it ain't going to be much she could do for her. Me, I'll take on the fucking world for my children. Every single one of them. But it ain't many mamas that's going to say that about their kids. They will not go that far. And this is why you as individual women got to fight the women's fight for rights and equal protection under the law, period. What'd you say? Hold on. That's why the railing that sister with that court case was about her miscarriage. Yeah, but the best thing that came out of that was she beat it. So now that's a precedent. So now every other woman that comes after her, they try to do that too. They can use that girl's case to get off with. But it should never come to that in the first place because a miscarriage is a natural part of the biologics and functioning of women's bodies. All that ridiculous shit women and males push out into society about a biological clock and how women's bodies work and how they don't work is all bullshit. It is all bullshit. There's no difference between a woman my age and a 25-year-old who gets pregnant. You're either going to have a healthy child or you're not. Now, the sperm you take to help create that baby, whether it's defective or not, will have everything to do with how fucked up a child is that you give birth to. But if I'm still making babies, my babies are going to be just as good as a 15-year-old, a 25-year-old, or a 40-year-old. All of us have the same capability because it was given to us by nature. Not by no egotistical fucking stereotype that some male somewhere wanted to create. Because that's where all this bullshit comes from. Do not believe it. But what you need to do is fight for the fact that you are entitled to rights the same as any male walking around because you are human the same way they are, period. Indeed. All right, black women, please go out here in real life. Educate your sisters. Believe in sisterhood. Couple up, double up, live with, share with everybody that is like you who wants something in life and does not want to become somebody's property or being told that because you are a woman, you are no longer allowed to the full extent and exercise of your human rights. Educate everybody that you can on everything before this next election. You cannot let a tyrant control America. You cannot. Especially being a black woman. They're going to come for your head first. It has always been that way. In slavery, post-slavery, up to today. We are always the ones that everybody feels should take the brunt of everything society has to offer. Did I not just show you that yesterday in a video of a 21-year history of studying the crimes that were allowed to be committed against black women just because nobody gave a fuck? It's important, black women. You need to stand united in making sure no tyrant or dictator is able to go into that office as president and turn this whole fucking country around. All right. Good night, everybody. Everybody be well. I'm going to put below all of the links to the abortion chat bot. And anything else that you need from this video that will help you. I'll put the limerance and some of the other psychological videos as a frame of reference. But I need us to wake up. I need us to care about each other and to try to begin to break down all of this separate and divide amongst all of us. Because it's going to take all of us, the same way it took all of us in the beginning to get all the liberties we got now that they're taking away from us. It's going to take all of us to hold on to them damn liberties. Okay? All right. Enjoy the bullshit Martin Luther King holiday. All right. If you have it off, I have it off. And make sure you do everything in your power to uplift and pay it forward for another black woman just like you. Have a good day. I'll see y'all. Thank you for the live. I enjoyed it. All right. Have a good day, y'all. Bye. Bye, Kiana. MN. See y'all. Bye. Good night.